Welcome, everyone. So right now it's 12 o'clock and we're going to get started because we only have an hour. And we're really glad to have you here today. My name is Rowena Zimmerman, and I'm the Director of Communications and Outreach at Blue Ridge PRISM. And today is our September Brown Bag webinar called Calling All Hikers. You can be an eco-hero, and really excited about this one. I know a lot of us like to get out there and hike during this time of year, and this is how we can do some good without not very much effort, really. So looking forward to that. Just some logistics first. I hope you can hear me, but if you can't, make sure that your audio is connected correctly through your Zoom. And I've got some suggestions on the screen there. There are audio settings on the lower left-hand side of your screen that should help you. And above all else, if everything else fails, which I hope it doesn't, we've got closed captioning enabled. So if you want to read along, at the bottom of your screen, you might have to press the three dots that say more. There's like a CC tab, and if you click on that, then you'll see all of the words that we're saying in text at the bottom of your screen. Zoom tips, we would love your questions and we would love to answer as many of them as we can. We ask that you type them into the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. As you see here, we use the chat like I just did, asking you questions like where you're joining us from, or if you want to share resources with the rest of the audience. But if you've got questions for us, please go ahead and put that in the Q&A tab and we'll answer them as best as we can. We don't respond to raise hands because we just have a lot of people on the webinar and just don't have that mechanism right now. So if you've got a question for us, just go ahead and put it in the Q&A tab. And once again, if you just have the general comments or resources you want to share, put it in the chat. Really quick, I want to talk about, this is a really busy time for Blue Ridge PRISM, as I'm sure it is for you. We've got so much going on and we would love to have you join us. So first of all, our invasive plant online workshops are now free. And that is great because we hope that makes it available to everyone to learn all of the elementary things that that you would want to learn about invasive plants in August. No, I'm sorry, not August. Autumn is a perfect time to do that. So we've got 2 free webinars coming up. October 8th is our identification of invasive plants, and October 9th is we go into the management and control of invasive plants. Both have excellent instructors, and they're only an hour long. And if you can't make it live, register anyway. Those who register, I send you a recording and additional resources in an email. If you want some more one-on-one small group instruction from us, we combine everything that you would learn on those online classes with in-person instruction, small group setting, and more hands-on instruction. So we will meet in person in McIntyre Park in Charlottesville for 2 hours on Friday, October 10th. And really kind of walk you through identification and control of invasive plants as you see them in nature on the ground. Learn more about that at our website. And just a reminder to all that our quarterly meetings are always free. They're online and they're open to all. And our next one is our fall quarterly meeting coming up on October 15th. And that is a really interesting topic. We're calling it Reintroducing Prescribed Fire and how that can be utilized to manage invasive plants with controlled burns. And we've got 3 great panelists joining us that day who are really experienced in that or have utilized this process on their own land. And they are Adam Coates from Virginia Tech, Jean Lorbe from the Nature Conservancy, and Paula Wyman, who you may know as the author of Bad Naturalists, and she's also a landowner. So if you have any questions about any of these events or anything else, please don't hesitate to contact us at info@Blue Ridge PRISM. We're going to try to answer all of your questions here today through the Q&A tab and through the Q&A session at the end. But if we don't get to your questions, know that we really want to answer them. So if we didn't get to your question or you didn't get a chance to ask it, please go ahead and email us at info@blueridgeprism.org. And if I went through those events too fast, go ahead and go onto our website and go on our events tab, and you'll see a description and registration link information for all of the events and even more. So without any further ado, today is purely a Blue Ridge PRISM staff presentation. The speaker today will be Lauren Taylor, who is our executive director. And with me on this webinar is Natalie Walker, who is one of our invasive management specialists, and she'll be helping to answer all the questions in the Q&A and sharing information with you. So without further ado, I am going to stop sharing and let Lauren share her screen.
Thank you, Rowena. Let's see. It's waiting for you. There we go. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
We're going to go into presentation mode. Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us for this first time ever webinar, Calling All Hikers. You can be an eco hero. I am so excited that you're here and so excited that you're joining us in this brand new program from Blue Ridge PRISM. So, in case you're not familiar with us, Blue Ridge PRISM, we're the Partnership for Regional Invasive Species Management, generically known as a cooperative weed management area. We are the first CWMA in the state of Virginia, and for a long time we were the only one. You will find cooperative weed management areas all across the United States. We are regional in nature, and there we go. We are located in 12 counties, accompanying about 3.6 million acres, wrapping around Shenandoah National Park. And our core purpose as a nonprofit is to improve the health of our natural world for future generations. And we do that in several ways. We have many in-person activities, including site visits and in-person trainings. We lead workshops, removal work days, field trainings, tabling events, and we produce a lot of educational content. We have webinars like this one. We have social media posts and weed alerts and fact sheets. They're all available on our website. So there's just a wealth of information. We are the state leader in training and education on invasive plants. And about 3 years ago, we gathered over 80 of our partners across the state and formed the Virginia Invasive Plant Coalition, which is run as a program of Blue Ridge PRISM. And that has its own website, virginiainvasives.org, where you will find all the resource information that we're aware of across the state, and you can see what our action groups are doing. So we're going to go fairly quickly through all of the information I have to present today, but if you take away only 3 things from this presentation, what I would like you to remember is this. First of all, invasive plants are all around us. They are causing harm to the wildlife and the waterways and the natural areas that we love. And we are the cure. We caused this problem and we can cure this problem. And I like to start with a tale of my own plant blindness. So hiking has always been my favorite thing in the world, and this is my beloved heart dog, and our happy place was always on the trail together. If you hike a lot in Northern Virginia, you may be familiar with this. This is Donaldson Run or Potomac Overlook Park. And we hiked there year round and absolutely loved it. But one of my very favorite times of year was the very beginning of the spring, when at long last, the lemony limey leaves were starting to appear, and you could take a deep breath and just say, oh, we made it through winter. It's over. But for years, what I didn't realize is all of these leaves that we're seeing coming through the trees in March and early spring shouldn't be there. And what I mean by that is these forests are invaded by autumn olive and Chinese privet and multiflora rose and other understory shrubs that don't belong in our environment. And one of the advantages that these invasive plants have is that they leaf out before our native flora. And so last year, I took these two photographs on the exact same day, about a mile and a half apart. The upper photo you can see has been invaded by autumn olive. The lower photo is what an uninvaded forest in the Virginia landscape should look like on that exact same day at that exact same time. You can see that the native plants have not yet leafed out. They're going to start leafing out about 2 weeks from the time this photo was taken. But in March, when you see this greenery, you should be very suspect. But it's green, so why do we care? Well, what's important to understand about these understory invaders is that they are shading out the ground, and our native tree seeds that have fallen and taken their place in the soil need that March sunshine and warmth to germinate. And so when you have an understory layer like all of this autumn olive that is blocking the sun from reaching the soil, no new tree seedlings can germinate. And what happens over time, we take our forests for granted and we see these trees that they've been there forever and we think they're going to be there forever. But in reality, every tree has a lifespan, just like we do. And some of those lifespans are very long, like our great white oaks can live for hundreds and hundreds of years, but some of our smaller understory trees may only live 60 to 80 years. And so if new trees are not continuously germinating and growing up through the forest, when the existing trees die their natural death, all that will be left is a giant thicket of autumn olive, and our forests are slowly disappearing right before our eyes. The other thing that's happening, and we'll talk about this again in a moment, is that these understory shrubs, these invasive shrubs, are shading out our spring ephemeral wildflowers that our pollinators need to nectar on when they start coming out of the ground right around the same time. So the moral of the story is not all green is good. In fact, the Department of Conservation has recognized 103 invasive plant species in Virginia that we are tackling, and a number of these have been identified as what we call early detection and rapid response, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So just so we can get all on the same page, what are invasive species? Many people are not aware that invasive species in the United States actually has a legal definition. So these are not just plants that we don't like. Invasive species by Executive Order 13751 means with regard to a particular ecosystem. And that's important because there are plants that are native here in Virginia that are invasive in the prairie states and vice versa. So with regard to a particular ecosystem, a non-native organism whose introduction causes or is likely to cause economic or environmental harm or harm to human, animal, or plant health. So key number one, the species was not here pre-European contact. And key number two, it has to cause harm, economic, environmental, human or animal or plant health. So we're not talking about plants like dandelions, for example. Yes, they're introduced. They've been here for a long time. You may find them a nuisance, but they will never form a monoculture, crowd out native species, or cause harm. So how is this impacting our wildlife, our forests, and our waterways? There are several ways we're going to go through quickly. So you may recognize this. This is kudzu, otherwise known as the vine that ate the South. This photo was actually taken in Madison County, Virginia, along the Conway River just a couple of weeks ago. Kudzu alters habitat structure. Imagine that you're a bird and you're trying to find a place to nest. You cannot make it through this. Wildlife cannot move through this dense tangle of vines and make their way to the river to access water and other food that they need. This is Asiatic bittersweet in a Charlottesville city park, Penn Park. This was taken last October. This is reducing food and shelter by draping itself over the forest canopy and crowding out the native species. This picture I took back when I was unaware of what I was looking at. This is Lesser Celandine. This was taken on the Swamp Loop Trail, Theodore Roosevelt Island in Northern Virginia, Arlington County. And in the spring, Lesser Celandine raises up above. This entire swamp floodplain should have been, this tidal floodplain should have been filled with spring ephemerals like our beautiful bluebells and spring claytonia and other plants, again, that our pollinators need to nectar on when they first come out of the soil. And when I first saw this, I thought, what a beautiful carpet of green. And then a couple weeks after this, it blooms all these beautiful yellow flowers. Every time you see a monoculture like this, a single species carpeting the ground or carpeting the understory, you should be very, very suspect. Nature abhors a monoculture, and it should never look like this. This was taken in Albemarle County. This is a Chinese privet invading a forest, again, preventing regeneration. This is from Nelson County. This is invasive Japanese wisteria that has completely torn down the forest, removing our forest canopy from along this roadside. And allelopathy, this is garlic mustard in Prince William County, and it is forming a monoculture across the ground, and the roots of garlic mustard send out toxic chemicals that prevent anything else from germinating, including our wildflowers, our grasses, and other native trees. You can see very few young trees coming up in this environment. They say that from the time garlic mustard arrives in a location without intervention, within 10 years, it can completely dominate the forest floor. This is a combination of Japanese knotweed and porcelain berry. So the knotweed has overwhelmed the Pimmet Run Stream Valley in Fairfax County, and the porcelain berry is smothering the trees like someone took a wet beach blanket and draped it over. And what has happened is it has pulled the trees away from the bank, and no new trees can regenerate. What's hard to tell, there's no scale in this photo, but that Japanese knotweed is 10 to 12 feet tall and has hundreds of canes per, let's say, 10 meters or so. Wildlife cannot make their way through this. No trees can go through it. And what happens is it opens up the stream to intense sunshine, and the stream temperatures warm. A lot of people don't realize that our waterways are one of our biggest carbon sinks. And when the temperatures warm, more carbon dioxide is released into the environment, and that creates a negative feedback loop. It also alters the temperature and changes the macroinvertebrate life in the stream, which has a ripple effect across the ecosystem. Many of you who've hiked in Virginia know that this is what our streams should look like: a dense canopy shading the stream. This again is Donaldson Run, just a couple miles from where that last photo was taken, and a beautiful mix of hardwoods in the forest. And when it's invaded with knotweed, slowly those trees die and they pull back from the shoreline, and that tree will warm up and the life inside will die. The number one cause of extinctions, according to a recent global report, is habitat loss. Invasive species, all taxa, are key drivers in 60% of extinctions globally. So how do these plants spread? So they were brought here intentionally or unintentionally by human activities, and they spread by being prolific seeders and having tenacious rhizomes. They have rampant runners like wisteria, sneaky fragments like Japanese knotweed, where an entire plant can regenerate from a small fragment the size of your fingernail. Common vectors include birds eating the berries and pooping them out in the forest, wind blowing the seeds, deer and dogs and other wildlife like bears moving through the forest and picking up seeds and redepositing them. Shoes, the treads in your hiking boots, tire treads, moving them down the highways, including mowing equipment. Waterways will pick up seeds of Japanese stiltgrass and wash them downhill. So many different ways that these plants are spreading faster than we can address them. And this is where you come in, with absolutely no formal training required. All you have to love is getting out in nature. So everything that we just shared may feel very overwhelming. This is an infestation of burning bush, which is a popular landscaping plant. And you can see that very few young trees are able to regenerate through this. But what I want you to remember and hold on to is that every infestation you just saw a picture of started out like this: one tiny leaf, one isolated plant. And if we had the ability to get to that before it spread through all of those vectors, we can stave off the next wave of invasions. And that's why Blue Ridge PRISM is launching our early detection and rapid response program. And the first phase of that is you, Strike Force Scouts. You're already out hiking and enjoying nature, and you have a powerful tool in your pocket, which is your smartphone. So our new mantra is see it and snap it. There are 3 citizen science web apps that are completely free for you to use and report early detection rapid response sightings. You can choose whichever one of these you are most comfortable with. One is called EdMaps, one is called WildSpotter, whose data feeds into EdMaps, and one is called iNaturalist. iNaturalist may be the most popular to use, but play around with them, put the apps on your phone and see which one you like using the best. So I'm going to walk you through really quickly how easy this is with iNaturalist. So first you put the app on your phone, then you create your account. You'll get a dashboard that looks like this, recording your observations. When you're ready, you'll hit the little camera button, point the camera at an animal or a plant or fungus, take the picture, and you will immediately get from the database a review of what it believes your plant is. It'll tell you the confidence level, and then you'll just hit that save button right there. And this happens in split seconds. And then you're done. You'll see at the top after you've saved, there is a button to sync this. You can sync while you're in the field, or you can sync after you get home. If you're out hiking in an area where you've lost cell service, but you can still take photographs, you can take all the photographs, and when you get home, you can upload those into iNaturalist. It just takes a couple of seconds. It is that easy for you to become a strike force scout, not sprout. The default setting for privacy of the location of these photographs is open. And for these photos, I would like to ask you to leave it open. This will allow us to get back to these plants for treatment. Obscured is a function for, let's say you find a rare plant in the wild and you want to record it in the database, but you don't want to let anybody know exactly where it is because sometimes people will go try to dig things up. So that's what that function is for, but we need you to leave the setting to open so that we can find these plants. Very important, we are not asking you to remove the plants. All we want you to do is photograph them and record them for us. Why? Because it's illegal for you to remove plants in parks and on public lands without express authority and being part of an authorized program. Also, these plants have specific timing and specific methods depending on the plants. You might try to remove a plant and you end up breaking off the root and causing a worse problem, for example. Some plants, although a limited number, can only be removed with the appropriate form of herbicide. Many can be treated by digging or hand pulling, but you need to know, you need to have the training in which plants are which. There are also native lookalikes for some of these plants. Incised fumewort and our native fumewort, for example, look very much alike to an untrained eye until they bloom. One blooms purple, one blooms yellow. You may also accidentally harm native plants in the process by stepping on them and crushing their fragile plant structures. So please, please do not attempt to remove these plants, no matter how tempting it may be. Simply record them for us. Our trained and certified EDRR strike force members will follow up with a coordinated response and remove invasive plants with permission from the park authorities. So why is early detection rapid response work so important? This is a map of or a chart of the invasion curve, and it looks like a lot of curves you may have seen, product life cycle curves, etc. So across the bottom, you see time accelerating, and then vertically on the y-axis, you see the amount of area infested. So in the very beginning, a plant shows up. For example, Japanese stiltgrass arrived accidentally as packing material, dried packing material in shipping crates from Asia. It escaped. They didn't realize that there were dried seeds on it. And so you have your first plant that takes hold. At that stage, in introduction, prevention or eradication is very simple. When you move on from there, if you don't get those initial plants that take hold, now we move into the detection phase. At this phase, eradication is still feasible. And this is what we're talking about, early detection, rapid response. By the time the public becomes aware of plants like English ivy, for example, and how invasive they may be, at this point, eradication is extremely unlikely. We don't even use that word anymore. We talk only about invasive plant control. The amount of money and time and energy it would take to remove every scrap of English ivy when we have so much seed in the seed bank, it's unfathomable. Or kudzu, for example, where there are 7 million acres of kudzu across North America and into Canada now. So this is where early detection rapid response takes place. All the research is indicating that this is where you get the bang for the buck. This is the most important work to stave off the next wave of invasive plants. And new invasive plants are arriving all the time and are continuously being evaluated by our Department of Conservation and Recreation. So this is where we're asking for your help. The management challenges on public lands, I'm sure you've all heard, even before the cutbacks, we're dealing with a landscape scale, tens of thousands of acres, lack of staff, they're under-resourced, and they're under-financed. There simply are not enough boots on the ground in our public lands to be able to keep an eye out for all the new invader plants that are coming our way. This is where we need your eyes and ears on the ground while you're out there hiking. So Strike Force Scouts to the rescue, see it and snap it. So for example, let's see that you see invasive incised fumewort, which comes up in the spring in riparian or wet areas, along stream banks, along river banks, blooms these tiny little tubular purple flowers, and then it's going to disappear again. So you see it, you snap that photo in iNaturalist. This is a map as of last night of all the locations in iNaturalist where incised fumewort has been spotted. And if you zoom in on any one of these red dots, what you'll see is the actual tagged location. So when you take that photo, it's going to show up on the map like this. And when you enlarge that, you'll see photos that can be blown up and verified. Other participants in iNaturalist will come along and verify your observation. And it takes 2 to 3 to qualify your observation as research grade. And that is a verification that you have correctly identified the species or that the database has correctly identified the species. You don't need to be an expert in identifying these. There is an entire network of people on iNaturalist that will help with the verification. From there, what will happen is our Strike Force team members will receive an email alert. You don't have to do a thing. And they will coordinate a response to these locations. They will gear up, they will bring the right tools at the right time and the right disposal methods. Some of these need to be bagged and trashed, for example. So hygiene in invasive plant removal is very, very important. So again, all we need you to do is snap that photo, get it into the database, and our Strike Force team will take over from there. So we're going to go very quickly through a series of early detection rapid response species that we are watching for in Virginia right now. This is not the complete list, and we're not here to teach you how to identify them right this second. We're just giving you a sense. These are all on our website with links to their complete listings at iNaturalist. So this is a new one, autumn fern. And what was really disappointing is earlier this spring, we were doing garden center surveys and we found that English ivy is slowly but surely being removed from garden centers. People are getting the message, and guess what they're replacing it with? Autumn fern, which we're now finding escaped into the environment. So this is a plant still being sold in retail. We want you to keep an eye out for it while you're hiking. Telling ferns apart can be tricky. So iNaturalist is a great resource. And we're going to invite you to sign up for specialized alerts about invasive plants, newly arrived invasive plants. There'll be a link on our website, and we'll provide more detail to help you with identification of tricky plants like this one. Blackberry lily is a new escapee from gardens, particularly in Northern Virginia and Maryland. Keeping an eye out for this one. You can see the interesting seed pods over on the right. They look like blackberries. Butterfly bush. Many people were heartbroken to see that butterfly bush joined the invasive plant list last September in Virginia. This is a horrible problem out in the Pacific Northwest, but it is escaping into our wild areas. And we ask you now not to plant it, to remove it from your gardens, and keep an eye out for it in wild spaces. Christmas berry, or Photinia, was Photinia. It has now been reclassed with a new genus. This is brand new. We're keeping our eyes out for this one. Kogan grass is just creeping up. It's a horrible problem in our southern states. It has just begun to cross the border from North Carolina into Virginia. I actually found two places in Charlottesville where this had been illegally planted as a landscaping plant. You can still buy this online and have it shipped to Virginia, even though you are legally not allowed to. It is on our noxious weed list. Not only invasive, but noxious, which makes it illegal to transport or plant or propagate or sell in any way. So we don't know how it got here, but our Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services went in and destroyed those plants in those locations. Very fluffy seed head, doesn't look anything like anything else in Virginia, very easy to recognize when it's blooming. Fountain grass is escaping from gardens and is flying through the landscape. This gets into farmers' pastures and renders them unpalatable to livestock, causing farmers to have to take entire fields out of rotation. Tremendous amount of economic harm. Giant hogweed. This is one that if you find it, do not touch. Do not attempt to go anywhere near this plant on your own. It is on our watch list, meaning we're not quite sure if we have sightings yet in Virginia, but it is on the move. Incised fumort, we've already talked about. This comes up in the spring and disappears again, forming dense mats across the forest floor. Comes back the following year. It's a prolific cedar. Italian arum is newly escaping from garden areas. It will look, what you'll notice is you're hiking through the woods and you'll see this plant. It looks like a house plant. It looks like a tropical house plant, and you'll wonder, what is this doing here? But it does survive our winters, and it blooms these red seed head. The flower actually looks a little bit like a jack-in-the-pulpit flower. This is a massive problem in the Pacific Northwest. Once it gets a hold in a temperate, rainy environment, it is a very, very difficult, nasty plant to try to remove. So we definitely want to know as soon as you see little sprouts of this. Japanese chaff flower has just been sighted. This is causing horrible problems in the Atlanta area and other parts south, and it has made its way northward. Again, a lot of these plants come northward through transportation corridors like 81 and 95. Seeds get picked up in truck tires and other vehicle tires making their way up the highways. Leatherleaf mahonia is another garden escapee. It looks like a giant holly. The thorns are wicked, and people plant it because they like the yellow blooms in the wintertime, which turn into these grapey type of clusters of berries that the birds then eat and spread. Ravenna grass is a new addition to the invasive plant list in Virginia. It's a landscaping plant still in the trade. It's a substitute for pampas grass. If you've ever been to Myrtle Beach or some of the other southern beach areas where they like to landscape with those big fluffy pampas grass plants that come from Argentina, those plants don't very well survive our winter. So Ravenna grass does, and that's what people are substituting in our northern landscapes, but it is highly invasive. Two-horned trappa is one of our 5-alarm fire species. This is spreading like wildfire across the environment. What happens is it floats on ponds, it rapidly reproduces, it has a wicked two-horned seed pod that reminds me of a Texas longhorn. And when migratory wildfowl land in the water, it latches onto their feathers and they take off and they go from farmer's pond to farmer's pond to farmer's pond, dropping these seed pods and spreading these infestations. It's working its way south, has been spotted in ponds as southward as Orange County, and we're on high alert for this plant. Wall barley is a new one that is not on the DCR list, but has been spotted in the DC areas. Where they are finding it, our counterparts at the National Capital PRISM. When you park your car, parallel park, and you see that little hell strip next to the sidewalk, these short, shrubby little grasses with this wicked seed head. This is a big problem out west, but what happens with this, it's very dangerous for your pets. These seeds break off. They will go up the nostrils and into the ears. They will try to burrow under your skin. They sort of whirly twist their way, almost like a drill, under the skin and in, and they will continue working their way and require surgical removal and can cause tremendous harm. So keep your eye open for that. So that's just a selection. Water hyacinth is another one that has worked its way into our eastern waterways. I know there's an infestation in a public pond area in Richmond. This is coming up from the south. There are waterways in Florida that are completely choked off with water hyacinth. This plant comes from South America originally. And remember to keep a boot brush in your car. You are part of this equation as well. The treads in your hiking boots or running shoes, whatever you're out on the trail, and can move seeds that you don't even realize. So this is an inexpensive tool. You can pick them up on Amazon or whatever, and just give your boots a brush before you hit the trail and after you hit the trail. And if there is a boot brush station at the trailhead, please do use it. Research is showing these really do make a difference. So I'll conclude by saying that we can all play a role in reversing the spread of invasive plants. Being a Strike Force Scout is one of the easiest things that you can do. You're already doing what you love to do. Just grab your camera, snap a few pics for us, and remember that one tiny leaf, one isolated plant, see it, snap it, and we are the cure. And that's what I've got for you. Rowena, I'm going to stop sharing.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. I was just typing in the address for the EDRR that you shared with me the other day. So, okay. Share that now. We are, that was a lot to see. I was seeing a lot of plants that I unfortunately do see when I go hiking. So that was really useful to see them up close again and know that that would be a good one to report for the EDRR purposes. Right now, we've gotten a few questions for Lauren, and I wanted to make sure that we answered them. Natalie, can you go ahead and ask one of the first questions that we got?
Yeah, sure. Diane asked, will the scouts go to all counties to remove invasives or still remain in the PRISM 12 counties?
This program is for all across Virginia. So if you are a Strike Force Scout, this works anywhere in Virginia that you are hiking, and the data that you gather will be coordinated by our Strike Force team.
Okay.
And then the next question is from Stacy. She said, should we join PRISM's traditional project in iNaturalist to facilitate reporting to you?
Nope, not necessary at all. Just pull out your phone, take a picture, and we will be monitoring. We have alerts set up for these species, so you don't need to do anything else other than just taking pictures.
And one more question. It looks like Jacob answered but I thought I would just ask anyways in case other people are curious. So she says, say you're hiking along the Appalachian Trail, which in places is heavily lined with Japanese stiltgrass. Would a photo of any one point be of any use? The Park Service already knows it's there.
You can, if you want. For the purpose of this program, we are trying to track the newly arrived invasive plants that we don't know where they are yet. So yes, the National Park Service is very involved, has been battling stiltgrass for a long, long time. Um, I think it's always valuable to take photos of invasive plants and record them, but it's up to you. You know, you want to enjoy your hike as well, so report to the extent that you want to report. But for this particular program, what we're going to be monitoring is approximately 20 and counting. What I will say, so we collaborate closely with the other PRISMs in the area, like the National Capital PRISM and other organizations down south, and we share word with each other about newly arriving invasive plants. I would say from Sarah Tangren's group, my colleague at National Capital PRISM, we are getting, it's at least one every other month, if not one a month, that we're being asked to spread the word and have everybody looking out for. So these invaders are arriving all the time, and that's why we're creating a special newsletter just for the purpose of sharing with you new arrivals. You don't have to sign up for that newsletter. If you want, you can just check back to our EDRR page on our website. We'll be updating that as well. But if you want to get it in your inbox, as soon as we know about it, you can sign up for that, that very special email list.
And Natalie, it looks like there are some more questions that have come up.
Yep.
If you want to take a look.
The same person also asked, do we need to register to be part of the program?
For the Strike Force Scouts, there's no registration required.
Okay, and then Pat asked, iNaturalist uses projects, focus groups based on species, themes, etc. Is there a dedicated project for invasives in Virginia?
Not that I'm aware of. We don't have one set up. And I'm not sure that we're going to set one up for this. What we are setting up is alerts on a species by species basis that will feed to our trained and certified strike force team.
Okay, and then Joe asks, how are the plant pictures taken selected to the early detection rapid response? I will take lots of pictures, not knowing whether they are indeed the ones of concern.
That's a great question. So you take your, if you use iNaturalist, for example, the engine in there is now using, they have so much verified data in there that their artificial intelligence is now using that database to suggest, you saw in the example there, like a 99.9% accuracy. So you may take a photo and it may tell you it's 95.6% accurate. Or it may not be able to identify it, and you can just hit save and then sync it. And what will happen is volunteers across the internet will come in. There are people who generously give up their time to take a look at photos that have been submitted, and they will suggest an ID, and other people will come in and either thumbs up or thumbs down. You know, they'll say they agree with that ID, or they'll say no, disagree with that ID, and they'll suggest a different one. Once you get a certain number of identifications that are in agreement with a particular species, then it's considered research grade. So you don't have to know. Take the pictures, let iNaturalist and the volunteers do the rest of the work.
Really quick, Pat Calvert. Hi, Pat. Glad to have you here. He actually said he found an iNaturalist project called Blue Ridge PRISM EDRR. So maybe that's been set up at some point, and we'll have to take a look at that and see what's in there. But just a heads up on that. And I just wanted to remind everyone what Lauren said earlier, for those interested in joining our EDRR strike force, is that you can actually sign up for a separate email list that we're going to be setting up, where you will just get alerts on the EDRR species to look for at that time. So that makes it a little easier for you to know what you're looking for, and at that time of year, depending on when you're out there hiking or taking a walk. Natalie, Jacob joined us late because he had a site visit. He's our other invasive management specialist. Are there any other questions that we have left unanswered?
Nope, Natalie covered the one I was thinking about the concern whether these telling the pictures, excuse me, telling whether the pictures were for the EDR plants or not.
Great. Okay. So
Diane, she asked if the workshops are available in Spanish. It's not related to this, but
well, we wish that we could give you that option, but none of us here is fluent in Spanish. We do have a few fact sheets that are in Spanish, and we have our herbicide sheet that goes into detail about safety and dosage in Spanish, and we try to increase our supply of that as time goes on. But that is definitely on us that we right now don't have the capability of really of providing a Spanish workshop. But hopefully in the future, I know that Plant Nova Natives does do Spanish workshops quite a bit, and VMPS they do Spanish workshops up in Northern Virginia, and that is a wonderful resource. Do you have anything to add to that, Lauren?
No, hopefully someday.
Yeah, we hope so. I know that Duolingo isn't doing it for me. I tried to learn from that, and then but my ability to actually speak is not that great. So we're all gonna that's something that a goal we aspire to. But thank you for that question. It's something we're really aware of. So moving on from Q&A. I just wanted to alert you, we do have another brown bag webinar coming up. We don't have one in October because we have so many other events, which I'll talk about, which I talked about earlier today. But our brown bag webinar is actually going to feature Kevin Heffernan, who is the invasive species manager for the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation's Natural Heritage Program. And the name of his brown bag webinar is called How to Be an Invasive Plant. And basically, there is a lot of rigmarole. There's a lot of steps that need to be observed before a plant in Virginia can actually be deemed invasive in Virginia and make it to the invasive species plant list. And Kevin is going to go through the process and how that happens, and also kind of talk about what they're looking for, what type of characteristics that a plant has to display in order to be considered invasive, and just the different factors that come into play in creating a list like the invasive species plant list. So that should be really interesting. So if you want to learn how to be an invasive plant, please join us on November 7th. And the link for that should be going live at 1 p.m. and you can sign up. Really quick, we're really glad that you're all here today. And these types of webinars are offered free to our audience because we want as many people to join us as possible and to gain as much education as they can about invasive plants and the native plants we're trying to protect. So if you would like to support us in any way, any donation, big or small, is really welcome by us to help us continue our work. We are a small nonprofit and depend on the generosity of people like you to help us continue our work. As Lauren mentioned earlier, our website is going to have a lot of this information. We've got a new a new link that I shared with everyone in the chat for the EDRR strike force. So if you have any other questions about Blue Ridge PRISM or want to check out our weed alerts or our fact sheets, please go to our website, www.blueridgeprism.org. If you've got any questions that we haven't been able to answer or that you thought of after this is over, go ahead and email us at info@blueridgeprism.org. And again, we really appreciate anybody reaching out to us. We're always here to answer your questions. We are on social media, and you can easily find us on Facebook and Instagram. And we've got a lot of our materials recorded and on our YouTube channel. Finally, we are always looking for volunteers to help us with our work days. and other tasks that we may need help with. And if you are interested in that, go ahead and also email us at info@blueridgeprism.org, and we'd be happy to talk with you. Just a reminder that the recording of this webinar will be emailed to you in a few days. So sit tight and you'll be able to listen to this again. It will also be emailing you additional resources in that, so that to help you with this process. So that's it. I'm so excited that we can end for you early. I know that lunch hour is short for everyone and you've got a lot to do. So thank you so much for joining us. A short survey is going to pop up once you leave this webinar, and it really kind of just helps us know what you're interested in seeing next time, and if we're meeting your needs in the invasive species world here in Virginia. So if you could just take this short survey, it takes a really short amount of time, we'd really appreciate it. And really quick, I just want to say we're grateful to all of you and to VEE, the Virginia Environmental Endowment, and all of our supporters for making these outreach events possible. So thank you so much, Lauren, for joining us today and for showing us those great photos of the different EDRR species, and basically announcing a really great new program that Blue Ridge PRISM is about to do for people who want to join this EDRR strike force. So sit tight. I'll be emailing you soon and you can learn more about it. And again, feel free to contact us if you have any questions.